to $1 trillion gone in a single moment. That's what happened on March 10, 2025, when global markets experienced their worst collapse since the 2008 financial crisis. The screens turned blood red as panic spread across Wall Street. A trader at Goldman Sachs was seen literally crying at his desk as he watched his clients' fortunes evaporate before his eyes. But this wasn't just any market correction. This was the day the world realized the dollar's reign might be coming to an end. Welcome to TG News. I'm your host. Today, we're diving deep into what might be the most significant financial shift of our lifetime. If you care about your financial future, you need to understand what's happening right now between China, the United States, and the rising BRICS alliance. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why your portfolio might be at risk and what you can do about it. Before we continue, take a second to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Financial tsunamis like this don't announce themselves with a warning, and you want to be first to know when we break down the next market-moving event. Now, let's get into it. For decades, the US dollar has been the undisputed king of global finance. Countries around the world hold dollars as reserves, international trade is conducted in dollars, and the global financial system is built upon its stability. But what happens when the world's second-largest economy decides it's had enough? China has been steadily reducing its holdings of US Treasury bonds, to the tune of $74 billion just in the last year. That's not a typo, $74 billion. Think about it, that's enough money to build 740 state-of-the-art hospitals, or fund the entire NASA budget for nearly 3 years. And China is quietly selling it all off. But why? According to our analysis, Beijing is implementing a strategic de-dollarization plan. They're reducing their vulnerability to US economic policies and sanctions. It's like a chess player carefully repositioning their pieces before making a decisive move. Comment below if you think this is just smart financial planning by China or something more sinister. I read all your comments and would love to hear your thoughts. Let's talk about what happened on March 10th. The S&P 500 plummeted to 0.7%, while the tech-heavy NASDAQ crashed 4%. Its worst single-day performance since September 2022. The total damage? Around $4 trillion wiped from the market's February peak, with technology stocks bearing the brunt of the pain. Nvidia, the AI chip giant, saw its market cap shrink by an astonishing $589 billion in January alone. That's more than the entire value of companies like Netflix or Coca-Cola, gone in an instant. The tech sector as a whole lost over $1 trillion in a single day. But here's what mainstream financial media isn't telling you. This wasn't just about interest rates or typical market jitters. This crash coincided perfectly with China's ongoing dollar dump and something even bigger. That's brewing in the international community. If you're finding this information valuable, give this video a like right now. It helps more people see this crucial analysis, and honestly, more Americans need to understand what's happening to our financial system. While China has been quietly shedding US dollars, they've been loudly building something potentially revolutionary, the expanded BRICS alliance. Originally just Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. This economic bloc has now added Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the UAE. Together, these nations now represent 37.3% of global GDP. Let that sink in. Over a third of the world's economic output is now aligned under a banner that is actively seeking alternatives to the US dollar. They're discussing creating their own common currency. They're settling trade deals in their local currencies instead of dollars. And their intra-BRICS trade is now growing faster than their trade with G7 nations like the US, UK, and Japan. This isn't some distant threat. It's happening right now. Since January 2024, when the new members officially joined, the BRICS nations have accelerated their push for a new financial world order. One where the US dollar is no longer the center of everything. Take a moment right now to share this video with at least one person who needs to understand these massive changes. Your friends and family deserve to know what's really happening in the global economy. So how does all this fit together? Let me break it down. China, the world's second-largest economy, has been steadily reducing its dollar holdings, selling off $74 billion in US treasuries. The BRICS alliance, now representing over a third of global GDP, is actively working to create alternatives to the dollar-based financial system. Wall Street finally caught on to these shifts in March 2025. triggering a massive $2 trillion market crash as investors panicked about the dollar's future. This isn't just a temporary market correction. It's a symptom of a fundamentally changing global financial landscape. The certainties we've built our investment strategies around for decades are starting to crumble. What we're witnessing is nothing less than a redistribution of global economic power. And if you're not positioning yourself accordingly, your financial future could be at serious risk. Subscribe right now if you haven't already. We'll be covering these developments as they unfold, and you don't want to miss our next analysis. Let's look at some specifics that mainstream media isn't connecting. Since 2013, China has been gradually reducing its treasury holdings. But in 2024, things accelerated dramatically with a $53.3 billion reduction in just the first quarter. At the same time, China has been stockpiling gold, adding over 300 tons since October 2022. Russia and China have already begun settling trade in their local currencies instead of dollars. The BRICS New Development Bank is funding major infrastructure projects throughout the global south, creating financial ties that bypass Western institutions entirely. And here is something few are talking about. President Trump's tariff policies have added fuel to this fire. His recent announcements exacerbated market fears, contributing directly to the March crash. When combined with China's dollar dump and BRICS expansion, it created a perfect financial storm. The writing is on the wall for anyone willing to see it. The question is, are you prepared for what comes next? Drop a comment with the word prepared if you're taking steps to protect your portfolio from these massive shifts. I'd love to know what strategies our community is using. So what does all this mean for your money, your investments, and your financial future? First, the obvious, market volatility is here to stay. As these global shifts continue, expect more sudden drops and corrections. Your 401k, your stock portfolio, your retirement savings, all will be subject to increased turbulence. Second, traditional safe havens might not be so safe anymore. U.S. Treasury bonds, long considered the ultimate safe investment, could face pressure if China continues its selling spree. This could lead to higher interest rates across the economy, affecting everything from mortgage rates to credit card debt. Third, the dollar's purchasing power could weaken. If the BRICS nations successfully create alternatives to the dollar-based system, demand for dollars would decrease, potentially leading to inflation and reduced purchasing power for average Americans. But there are opportunities here too. Diversification has never been more important. Assets that perform well during currency transitions, certain commodities, specific international markets, and alternative investments might deserve a closer look. This is exactly why I'm creating a special report for our subscribers on how to position yourself for the coming de-dollarization. Hit subscribe now so you don't miss it when it drops next week. Now, to be fair, not everyone sees this as a doomsday scenario. Some economists argue that the dollar's network effects are too strong to overcome quickly. The U.S. economy remains innovative and resilient, and the dollar is deeply embedded in global finance. Others point out that creating a viable alternative currency is incredibly difficult. The euro took decades to establish, and even then, it hasn't displaced the dollar. BRICS nations have their own competing interests that could prevent true unity. These are valid points. This transition won't happen overnight, but the direction is clear, and the pace is accelerating. Ignoring these shifts would be like ignoring the rise of the internet in the 1990s. You might not feel the effects immediately, but eventually, they'll transform everything. What do you think? Is the dollar's dominance truly under threat? Or are these concerns overblown? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I love seeing the different perspectives in our community. There's a psychological aspect to all this that we can't ignore. Markets move based on perception as much as reality. The March crash happened not just because of China's actual dollar sales, but because investors suddenly perceived the threat to the system they've always relied on. This perception can become self-fulfilling. If enough investors believe the dollar is weakening, they'll act accordingly, potentially accelerating the very trend they fear. That's why understanding these dynamics isn't just about protecting your wealth. It's about being psychologically prepared for a changing world. Financial transitions of this magnitude can be disorienting. Being informed gives you not just financial advantage, but peace of mind. If you found value in this analysis so far, please take a moment to give this video a thumbs up. It really helps our channel reach more people who need this information. So where do we go from here? Based on our analysis, here's what to watch for in the coming months further reductions in China's U.S. Treasury holdings. If the pace accelerates beyond $100 billion, expect more market turbulence. Increased BRICS cooperation, particularly announcements about their common currency project or major trade deals settled in. Non-dollar currencies. Gold prices. As countries diversify away from dollars, many are turning to gold. Sharp increases could signal accelerating de-dollarization. U.S. policy responses. Will Washington take steps to protect the dollar's status? Higher interest rates? New international agreements? These could have profound market effects. The global financial system doesn't turn on a dime. We're likely looking at a transition that will take years, even decades. But the indicators are clear. Change is coming, and the smart money is preparing now. Make sure you resubscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss our weekly updates on these crucial developments. Your financial future might depend on staying ahead of these trends. As we wrap up this analysis, I want to be clear. This isn't about fear-mongering. It's about seeing the financial world clearly for what it is, a complex, evolving system where the old rules are being rewritten before our eyes. The $2 trillion market crash in March was just a tremor. The real earthquake, a fundamental restructuring of global finance, is still building. Whether that leads to disaster or opportunity depends largely on how informed and prepared you are. Here's what I encourage you to do right now. Subscribe to TG News if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss our upcoming special report on protecting your assets during de-dollarization. Share this video with friends and family who need to understand these shifts. Start researching how to diversify your investments beyond dollar-denominated assets. Knowledge is your best defense. Join the conversation below. Comment with your questions or insights. Our community gets stronger when we share information. Remember, throughout history, the biggest transfers of wealth happen during times of major transition. Those who see it coming position themselves accordingly. Those who deny it find themselves wondering what happened to their financial security. This is a pivotal moment in global finance. China's dollar dump and the rise of BRICS aren't just news stories. They raise the early warning signs of a new financial era. The question isn't whether this transition is happening. The question is, which side of it will you be on? For TG News, I'm your host. Until next time, stay informed, stay prepared, and stay ahead of the curve.